Hi, my dear. And hello, everyone else who's
Hello.
joined.
Good morning.
Morning. Great to see some familiar faces joining. I'll just give it a few more seconds or so a few more people can join. It's great to see so many people.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Kate. Okay, we'll get started. So, hello, everyone, and welcome to the official launch of the UK PACT Parents and Carers Together, which is a rebranding of the already established national network of parents and carers, which Medea, who is on the line, along with Ellen, is established. Probably was 2021, I think it was. So we are, Anna Lopez and I have taken the reins. We are the new co-chairs, and we wanted to take an opportunity right at the start of the academic year to welcome you all to the next chapter. Medea is still going to be involved and attending and joining us on this journey. But Anna and I have accepted her invite to be co-chairs for the new chapter. So today we wanted to briefly go through some of the toolkit findings that we built on in the summer, and some of you were able to attend our session that we did in June. Then we're going to talk through our webinar series that we are building as we speak, and we'd like to have some input from people on the call as well. And then we want to speak briefly about growing our network. And so to do that, we also have a Mentimeter, which is an online platform where you can input some of your ideas. But Anna will facilitate a discussion with that, and we can talk about that together. For those of you who can see everyone on the call, I have the pleasure of seeing you all on the call because I have two screens. If you can't, I've got a neat little picture of us on both on the next slide. So this is Anna and that's me. And we are here together to kind of join with all of you on this journey. So Anna and I are very invested in this particular network. And for us, it's a professional interest, it's a research interest, but also it's a personal interest. I'm a parent, I'm a dad to two children, 2 and 5. Anna is a carer. Anna, did you want to briefly say hello? You're going to join and speak a bit later, but if you wanted to say hello.
Hello, everybody. Yes, I'm Anna. I'm a carer. I realized that I was a carer when I started doing research with Mark in this area, and and I'm also the co-chair of our carers network at Newcastle University, where I am an academic.
Great, thank you, Anna. And yes, just to add to that, I'm the sort of lead or chair of the parents. It's now going to be the parents network at Northumbria University. We are establishing a carers network as separate from our parents network. So yes, that's been in place since 2020. So yeah, as said, we want to grow our community, and you are all part of that community. So we want to do it together. So just like we did with our toolkit, we got all the voices from the members to contribute to that toolkit, and when we've brought that together, we want to do the same with our network, our national network. We want to kind of work together and co-construct it. And one way that we think is very important is to find opportunities for us to meet like today, but also in person if we can. And we're in the process of applying for some funding to make that possible with bursaries so that people can attend in person. And we'd like to do that as we move into 2025 as well, as many opportunities as we can. So I'll briefly talk through some of the highlights from the toolkit. To note, we are working with a web designer who is putting together a fantastic website presence for our toolkit. And on the first slide, you'll have seen the logo that we are using, the UK PACT logo. So all of that is going to be packaged in a nice looking website. At present, I have all the toolkit information that we gathered and generated together on June 6th, just before the summer kind of got kicked off. I've got that all on a Google Doc, but that's going to go into a nice looking website rather than on a Google Doc. So that will be something really important for us to all share. So for those of you who are less familiar, the toolkit is designed to be a really useful resource for all chairs of different types of networks at all stages. So if it's either for those who might be thinking of starting a network, or it could be for those who have really kind of established one and want to think, what's next? What do we do next? So it's meant to service all those needs, really. That's the purpose of it. Hence, it's got different sections. So just some highlights, and I will be sharing these slides. We're recording this session as well, so you don't need to scribble notes or anything, but it's just, I've put it on a couple of slides just so you have that information. We've got a general focus on some of these kind of big questions of how and why you organise. I'll come to that on the next slide because there's some elements to that that are quite important. We found a lot in our research and also in conversations that the context where you are, in which institution you work and what relationship you have is very important. So that then feeds into the idea of, are you going to be aligned to the institution, or are you going to be more grassroots, more autonomous? So those questions come up quite early and can continue to arise. Having a co-created mission, very important as well, and that's something you might review on an annual basis. Leadership and succession planning, incredibly important, and connected to that is that idea of caring for leaders. And Anna and I are currently finishing a paper that we want to submit very soon, and the importance of leaders in how these networks grow and mobilize is incredibly important, as we've found. One of the things that we'd like to build in the coming year is, for some of our more mature or established networks, is how we might build some more regional connections, perhaps with mentor relationships that might feed into national campaigning. And then finally, and this is something that we want to really bring to the fore with our webinar series that we're going to sort of start speaking about today, it's the idea of sharing events, sharing resources, and the toolkit and on the website being a hub for that. So where we can collaborate, and rather than something great happening in the north and something great happening in the south, those two worlds meeting, and we can actually benefit from all that kind of great activity that's already happening. And we just wanted to highlight, we have done this many times already, but for those of you who are chairs of networks or have been or might think about doing it in the future, these networks are great in many different ways, but just their existence is an incredibly important thing for the members, feeling that they are not alone. And that came through very strongly in a lot of the interviews and the surveys and the engagements that we've done. And so if you are a chair, and we've all had, for those of you who are chairs on the call, we've all had days when we feel guilty about how it's going, or, are we doing enough? Just keep that in your mind. You're providing an amazing sort of space, an open, welcoming, supportive space for members, and that's something to really hold on to. Okay. I mentioned I would briefly talk through some of these elements with the way that you organize. This came through again in our research. So one of the strong aspects of parents and carers networks is that some of them organize in strong alignment with, say, an HR function or an equality, diversity and inclusion function within a university. Others are far more grassroots in nature. And we wanted just to kind of highlight that this is an important distinction, and there is not one right way to do it. It's, again, drawing back to that idea, it really depends on your institution and what relationship you already have. But it connects to the toolkit, and we wanted to highlight that for some, there's a path that you can follow, which is in partnership with your HR EDI team. For others, you might have more of an option to grow a network organically with members. And there are different considerations that fall into those two pathways. And we've kind of highlighted some of those, but really it's important to say at the bottom that There are many commonalities between those two. So you might be aware that, especially, I mean, I've mentioned for parents, but it's really important for carers to raise awareness of who are carers. And Anna's sort of, we've spoken about this before, but her own awareness of being a carer grew through the project. So it's a really important role that but networks of all colours can perform within an organisation. But a lot of it is about working with your members and recognizing lived experience and connecting with other networks, either within the institution or more broadly, and having a focus on the policy and the practice that you can influence within your institution. So, as I said, the toolkit will be much more expanded when we get it onto the formal website. If you are interested in learning a bit more about that, I'm more than happy, and Anna as well, we're happy to talk about that outside of this call. We just wanted to give you a brief flavour of what will be going into it on this, because it's part of the launching of UK PACT, that's going to be part of the website as well. But for now, I want to introduce our new webinar series that's going to be like a monthly event. It's going to be roughly 45 minutes in length at a lunchtime, trying to put it on different days in the week as well, so that it's hopefully can be accessible for others, but we will record it as well. And we've got some speakers already confirmed, which is brilliant, some excellent speakers. And then we'd also like to hear from you in terms of who you might like to hear from, what topics you might like to hear from. So we could get you started and then we can hear from some of those. But I'll briefly introduce the speakers we do have first. So we're starting off with, I think Claire is on the line. Claire, if you did want to say hello, you're very welcome to, rather than me speak for you. Are you there, Claire?
I am here, yeah.
Hello,
my
Claire.
hair has got longer. I'm here. But yeah, looking forward to. Thank you for inviting me. So yeah, I won't speak. I'll let you carry on.
No, please
But
do
just say
speak,
hello.
Claire. It's just to say that Claire I'm really delighted that we're starting off with Claire. I've known Claire for a few years now from a conference that we've both attended with Ernestine and Gozi. So that is Claire's research is going to be focusing on parents planning care and parental leave policy in HEI. So it's going to be relevant for members, but also generally for the sector, for higher education sector. So there'll be two strands to that. And with each of these webinars, just to mention, we want to have an element where we're hearing from a speaker, an expert in the area, but also we'd love to open up the discussion. We want to have space for that each time. So there'll be topic-based discussion, and we're going to be hopefully building some of that shared knowledge together. So yeah, Claire, for those of you who aren't aware, has also done a really valuable benchmarking exercise. I've separated that point out as well, with parental leave in the UK. So that's a really helpful resource for us all to kind of benefit from. If you're interested in pushing for that within your own institution, Claire has the data. So it's really really important.
Yeah, so just say a couple of this. I mean, obviously I'll
Please
talk
do.
about it properly at the webinar, but yeah, so the webinar will draw on my PhD research, which I've just finished, yay, and which involved speaking to parents and talking to parents about how they planned leave, and a lot of my participants were in the HE sector. And then the other part of it, like Mark said, it's around the benchmarking. So last year I did a freedom of information request to universities basically, and got 117 responses to find out, you know, what is it looking like in terms of policy. So I will be sharing my findings, and hopefully it will be useful to you all. Yeah, but I look forward to talking in more detail when in October. And also nice to say hello. There's some familiar faces here, so nice to see you.
Thank you, Claire. That's brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, we're really lucky to have Claire to kick us off on our webinar series. I think that'll be a really good session. So that'll be the first session, as I say, on the 15th of October. I will be sending around invites through the distribution list, but just to highlight that that's the date if you have that if you want to put it in your diary now. So the second speaker will be Kalichi Dibi from Newcastle University, and she will be speaking to us all about carers and how to conduct effective organisational carer awareness raising activities. So Kalichi works quite closely with Anna and works on a lot of the fantastic kind of initiatives that have been pioneered really at Newcastle University, including the carers passport and carers leave, and there are many other elements of what they do at Newcastle that Kalichi has been on the forefront of. So she's a great speaker as well, if you have heard her before. So I think she'll really help to kind of get our focus on carers as well as parents, and open up an opportunity for dialogue about how we can best support carers across all our different networks. It's something that as a chair in the past I've kind of wanted to spotlight as much as possible. Anna, did you want to add anything in terms of with it being Kalichi being at Newcastle? Anything that's going on at the moment?
I think you covered everything. You mentioned the carers passport. I think that's really interesting because I hear people in networks in other universities talking about how can they go about having that as well. So I think it will be interesting.
Yeah, and I've remembered Kalichi also designed a carers checklist as well around that awareness raising. So I think she might talk to that point as well. So that'd be really helpful. Next, we're going to hear, I mentioned already, Ernestine Nzi from York St John. She is an absolute firebrand when it comes to everything related to parents. She is a leading light in our field. I'm absolutely delighted that she's going to be speaking to us, particularly about her passion for highlighting breastfeeding provision in UK higher education. And she's done some fantastic research and activism in this area. So she will be a brilliant person to hear from in our December webinar, and yeah, great speaker as well. So really encourage you to try and come along to that one. Ernestine's a really great friend, and a little plug: she organises a conference every June at York St John, and shares details for that. We will be promoting that within our webinar series as well. But please, if you are interested in engaging in the research side of parents, and particularly parents and policies and how you might interact with that in your workplaces, Ernestine's conference is the place to be. It's a really nice conference to kind of get to know people in this space. So it's a quick question for Michael. Will these webinars be open to, hold on, I've missed that question. Will these webinars be open to network members as well as, yes, absolutely, yes. Please, I've put this out initially through the distribution list, but please, yes, invite members. We'll have to be conscious of capacity if we get to that point, but yes, with these online tools. But yeah, definitely encourage members to come along. We will record it as well. So yeah, but yeah, it'd be lovely to have members along. Okay. And then I have one more confirmed speaker in January, and that is Jessica Hobbs, a PhD candidate from Birkbeck University, London. And Jess's research is focused on paternal well-being and the psychology of that. And so she'll be speaking to that topic in January. And again, I don't want to steal Jess's thunder, but she is a really good speaker and has some really nice visuals that will be very engaging. She uses Lego very nicely. That's all I'll say. It's a very interesting way of presenting, which I really like. So yeah, that takes us into January, and that is the kind of I've reached out to a couple of other people, but these are the confirmed speakers we have for our webinar series. So first of all, what we'd like to ask you now is what sessions would you like to see? I'll pass over to Anna to kind of start this conversation off, but we do have a Mentimeter where you can type out any comments, not necessarily right now, but if you want to follow that link and type out any ideas, please do. But if you'd like to speak up and to share some ideas or start that dialogue right now, that would be lovely to hear. I've put a couple of potential ideas in there. So I'm very conscious of social media and how teenagers are interacting with that, and also neurodiverse children. But any topics, we would really welcome your input, and particularly if you can think of speakers, that would be very helpful. So if you do want to speak up, please do. But no pressure.
Oh, I've got something to say. Sorry.
Please.
Oh, yeah. So I've raised my actual hand.
So Margaret, then Claire.
So I was just thinking. But well, I was thinking about me. Selfishly, it's that kind of squeezed. Now you've got elderly parents, and I haven't got young children anymore. In fact, yes, I've got a 21-year-old, not a child, but a 16-year-old as well. So teenagers and elderly parents, it's like that kind of balancing that. I would find that quite helpful.
Yeah, that sounds great. So the squeeze between that age range, yeah, absolutely. That's a really good idea. Thank you, Margaret. I think I'm quite conscious of trying to not. There's often a bias, I think, with focusing on parents of very young children, and there are certain pressures at that point, but there are other pressures as well. And I think we want to make sure we open up the dialogue for that. Absolutely, thank you. We had Claire, and then we have, I think I saw there's Fire, and then I saw Sarah as well. So yes, so I think Claire first, please.
Hi. Yeah, I mean, I think going with sort of the grassroots nature of this sort of thing, and people bring up their own interests as well. But one thing that's resonating with me a lot at the moment, and I've had quite a few members bringing this up, is that support for parents and carers to support their older children as well. And as you just sort of mentioned that too, but for example, what's quite present in quite a few people's minds at the moment is supporting their child to transition into secondary school, because that's quite a bumpy ride for quite a lot of people. Another one is kids in their exam year. So personally, like, there's a lot of stuff going on with my own children around that, and the sort of pressures that are on them. So all of that sort of area, anything along those lines. I've actually been looking at stuff with Young Minds myself to see if there's some support we can give there. But yeah, I think as you say, it can quite often be focused on new parents or people going on leave around those areas. So also good to have something for those. It doesn't get necessarily any easier, does
it? Don't say that, Claire. No, thank you very much. Fire, please.
Thank you. I, in the last few years, haven't been able to stop thinking about a talk that I heard by Hee-Jung Chung, who has done a lot of incredible work and written a book around flexible working and how it can or can't be used for the forces of good, and how the way that it tends to be implemented at the moment, for all of the kind of hoo-ha around how wonderful it is, it still tends to just reproduce a lot of the systems and structures and gender stereotypes that are disadvantaging mothers. And she spoke to our network a couple of years ago online after that. And I feel like in the last few years as well, like, we hear a lot about flexible working, and there's a lot of push to make flexible working better, but there doesn't seem to be much that articulates how to use it effectively so that it isn't discriminating against mothers or allowing us to just reproduce certain systems and structures. And I don't know how easy it would be to get Hee-Jung herself to come and speak to us during one of these webinars, or somebody else that she works with. But I think that's something we really, really need to address collectively fairly quickly before we find a lot of these flexible working policies in place and very difficult to change. So something like that would benefit parents, it would benefit carers just across the board.
Absolutely.
And it seems to be a hot topic in politics as well at the moment. So I would like to suggest that, and maybe seeing if we could entice Hee-Jung to speak to us.
Yes, I'll reach out. That's a great idea. No, thank you. And probably on this little section, we've got time for one more person. So it's Sarah, and please send ideas. It's not just for now, but please send further ideas. Hi, Sarah.
Hello, it was kind of building on what Claire said earlier about older children, because it's also parents as carers as well as your trio. So I've got children that are going into college and university, and I am still very much caring. And how do you balance that out? That's a bit of a minefield for me. Not minefield, but trying to work out how I do that. But also I was talking with my brother about this, especially I suppose for, like, say, autistic children. So it merges, but it can be any disability, right? That just because they've reached 18 doesn't mean they no longer need not just general support that you give to your growing children, but actually you still very much need to be with them day to day and still doing a lot of the caring.
Great. Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah, that's a really important focus for us. So that's brilliant. Thank you, Sarah. We will now, I'll hand over to Anna, who's going to lead us through the final part of today. Over to you, Anna.
Okay, can you move to the next slide, please, Mark? So we only have 5 minutes today, so we're not going to have time to go into this into much detail, but we just wanted to present to you these 2 big questions that we're going to be working on in the near future. These are the questions that we are working on in terms of the research bit that Mark talked about. So any initial thoughts about these 2 questions? How can universities organize work better to include parents and carers? And very importantly, what is it exactly that we want from our employers? And that can be in terms of ideals, practicalities, best practices, or our campaigning priorities. So again, Mark very kindly created this Mentimeter, so feel free to fill it in or to just tell us your immediate thoughts in the next few minutes, but there'll be other opportunities in the future to come back to these questions, and we're very much interested in creating a collective answer to these questions. Okay, so over to you. Anyone would like to give us any immediate thoughts on, could be a campaigning priority or something that you really feel strongly about that we need to kind of ask our employers for how we want to change our workplaces. So Julian.
Hi. Yeah, I was just the first thing was a few things really. It's around more raising awareness of carers. I'm a carer, and the invisible labour of caring and how it affects workloads, particularly looking at, is there not just hybrid working, but is there more flexibility around managing workloads for carers? But also as a co-chair, the better recognition systems for the work involved, because I know some institutions have designated workloads, and looks like we're beginning to maybe go in that direction. But for many years, most of us are doing it, because we're passionate about it. And I'd like to see more of the best practice coming in from other bigger organisations, where where rather than only giving the basic minimum, they go beyond. So typically with the change in legislation around carers leave and so on, our institution just opted for the absolute minimum, whereas bigger organisations have gone beyond, way beyond the basic legal minimum. So it's kind of lobbying and advocating for better practices.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's very important. Madia, I think you were next.
Hi, Anna. Hi, Mark. Firstly, huge congratulations on taking up the new rules. And I'm sure that you are going to lead the network to new heights. And I'm very conscious of the time, so I just want to quickly mention 2 things. I think I was wondering a conversation we had about a year ago about baby loss and how universities could place more emphasis, more recognition on that, and also on the fact that that should be a different kind of leave in the HR policy rather than just a domestic leave or bereavement leave. I think it needs to be recognized as a separate entity. And the second one was around normalizing the culture of care. I think what we've just heard is the carers are on the back burner, and it's really hard for them to step forward and even claim themselves to be as carers. So normalizing that culture, and maybe that sort of endorsement and that recognition needs to come from the top. The more senior you are in an organization, the more candid you are about your own experiences, the more you normalize it for others to step forward as well. So with that, I just pause here. I know others have got to speak to. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
So I think my thoughts might be somewhat aligned with what Julian was articulating earlier. I think it's across the sector, we need consistency in what is offered, because I think it's very frustrating when we get into conversations with people from other institutions and we think, oh, they've got it better than us, or I've got it better than them. It shouldn't be a case of that. And I think higher education is an area that should be leading the charge with doing things that are so-called best practices or defining what they are. But I'm always a little bit wary of the term best practice, because I often find that the best practices that are cited really kind of stink. And it's not a case of, saying so-and-so has the best practice, so we should all follow that. Best practice, or what works, sensible practice, should actually come from the parents and carers. So it shouldn't be a case of a couple of HR executives or whatnot kind of just defining what is best practice because they've done a survey of other institutions and decided that maybe they should just do a little bit more. I think it should really be coming from us. We should set what those practices are, and then they should be implemented by our institutions, and it should be consistent across the sector. And I think demonstrating that type of consistency and that sort of engagement with staff and the people who's going to be impacted by policies, something that a lot of other sectors and businesses would learn from. So it sounds, maybe that's a bit abstract and sounds something like a kind of a wish list of in a perfect world, but I think there's a lot of sort of, power in the collective, as it were, and a lot of really smart people here who research this stuff. So, we've got it all kind of lined up. So something like that, I think, would be, my perfect world, that's what we would get from our employers.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So really lots of ideas to start with, and this is just the beginning. So I think we have to leave it there today, but we'll continue the conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And this is just the start of the next chapter. So looking forward to joining you in the future. If anyone has trouble with Menti, I just saw a little message on that. I will circulate to see if I can get that to work in the distribution list. But if you want to just email and just circulate the ideas around the distribution list as well, that'd be fine. But yeah, please keep in touch, and I'll send around the webinar times in the coming days. Have a lovely week. Great to see you all. Bye bye.
Fantastic, Evan. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Anna. Bye bye. Bye.
Bye bye.